Do you know when you're at a party or a social gathering and then someone walks in and you know this person, if they catch your attention, if they corner you, they are going to invade your personal space. They're going to talk at you for hours and hours and hours, and they are going to bore you half to death. And so what you do is you spend the entire party trying to avoid this person. They're always there, just in the corner of your eye. When they drift too close, you automatically start to move. You're in the kitchen, they walk into the kitchen, and you do some sort of Superman flying dive out of the window just so you can escape this person and avoid that awkwardness and that boredom. Well, for a lot of traders, that is what they are doing day to day. Now, if you take this very annoying person and you change the name to something like pain, you are almost always trying to avoid pain when you are trading. Now, when it comes to pain when you're trading, it tends to be some sort of mistake or some sort of financial loss. We don't want those things, and so we try and avoid them as best we can. Now, when this kind of comes out are, well, it's in lots of different areas, but two kind of main ones. The first one would be you're in a trade, it starts moving against you, and you start to move your stop. You're moving your stop because you don't want to be wrong. You don't want to face the pain. Now, the pain tends to also be sort of short-term pain. It's the pain that's right in front of you that you're trying to avoid. Because if you kind of thought about it, and you said to yourself, well, okay, I really don't want this loss, but if I start moving my stop, it's gonna end up with longer term pain in the future with the larger loss. But that's not the way the mind works. So what you're doing is you're moving your stop, you're moving it again, you're moving it again, you're moving it again, trying to avoid this pain. Now, the problem with trading also is that because it's based on probabilities, sometimes that is going to work. It doesn't really matter what you do. Sometimes in trading, it is going to work out. And so it kind of builds into your head that sometimes you can escape that pain. And so rather than facing the immediate loss, you try and get away from it. You try and move your stop. And it ends up in disaster. Something else would be like, let's say you've had maybe a run of losses. Now it gets to the end of the week, you're really frustrated because those losses, they weren't normal losses, they were on the back of mistakes. And what you do is, you say to yourself over the weekend, you know what, I don't really want to think about this the whole weekend. It was just a couple of silly mistakes. What I'm going to do is refund my trading account. And then I will start fresh on Monday. In fact, what I'm also going to do is I'm not even going to put these losses into my trading diary. I'm going to start all over again, start of the new week, new me, new trader, new discipline, and I'm going to be perfect. Again, what you're doing is you're trying to avoid the immediate pain. With trading, the truth is the pain is what helps you to grow. It's kind of the things that you have to face, because if you never face them head on, you're never going to grow. Now, some people, when you're first starting off trading, if you've only put, a couple of £100 in your trading account, invariably you're going to have to top it up. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about regularly doing this. I'm talking about having kind of a meltdown and really wiping out your trading account. And then instead of facing what you've done, you just rebuild the account with your savings and you start all over again. You go a few steps, you see a little bit of growth, but then everything comes tumbling down again. What you're doing is you are papering over the cracks. When it comes to trading, you have to face that annoying person at the party. You have to become cornered by them because you have to learn from them. Now, when we're talking about pain with trading, what is usually happening when you're having, let's say, the loss, or when you're having the run of losses, is you are maybe making mistakes. Or if you're not making mistakes, there are things there that you can learn from. A better way to approach it, rather than trying to simply avoid the pain, is to try and learn something from the pain and try and grow from the pain. So if you are having a loss, it's very unlikely that the first loss that you have is the loss where you start moving your stop. It tends to come after a certain number of stops. Maybe you've already had a tough week. Maybe you've been trading all day, you've managed to build up a little bit of profit, and then you have this loss which wipes out all of the profit. You take another one and then you're down for the day. By looking at what is going wrong and by finding out when you start to kind of fall off the wagon. So when that pain avoidance starts to come in, you can start to address it a lot better. You can start building things in like, okay, so I already know that if I've already had a loss for the day, the second one is very likely going to be one that I'm not going to be able to handle. So what you can do is, for a period of time, you can just shut down after your first loss. Because what you're doing is you are building in kind of a defense field. You already know where your weakness is, so you're starting to build things into the way you trade to avoid you trying to avoid the pain. To avoid you from doing things like moving your stop, because you know if you get into that position, the kind of pain avoidance is going to take over, so you don't want to go there. When it comes to things like rebuilding your trading account after huge mistakes, what you are not forcing yourself to do is understand the long-term pain of making those mistakes. Yes, sure, you have to face the short-term pain, because eventually you have to sit back and you say to yourself, I've had lots of losses, my trading account is decimated, and I need to put money back into the account. But you are papering over the cracks that you are not trading effectively. Because when you come back to the charts on the Monday, the account looks healthy again, and you start again, you start your growth again. Part of trading is learning that after drawdowns, whether they're good drawdowns or bad drawdowns, you have to make those profits or make those losses back. You have to turn those losses back into profits, and that's all part of the journey. It's like when you see those kind of cartoons where people are walking up a mountain and then they fall back a few steps. By refunding your trading account, you're trying to avoid falling back those few steps. You're just trying to kind of push yourself back up again. And every time you fall, you push yourself back up again. But the thing is, you are no way going to be able to continue doing that over the long term, because you will run out of money, and that's what happens to so many people. You have to look at the almost need to avoid pain as a warning sign, or as an indication even. Whenever you feel that need to kind of avoid the losses, you have to then start looking at it. You have to bring out your magnifying glass and you have to start thinking to yourself, okay, what weaknesses is this showing in me as a trader? What do I need to do differently? If you knew that if you had this drawdown, you could not simply refund the account, do you think you would start thinking about things a little bit differently? Maybe after the first 1 or 2 times where you had to grind your way back to having your account where it was before all of those mistakes. Of course you would. Because suddenly, when you are moving into that kind of emotional trading state of mind, you're going to think to yourself, well, hang on a second, I've just been sitting at this computer for 2 months fixing the mistakes that I made last time. And it becomes easier to sit on your hands. It becomes easier to move away from the computer. If when you are having the loss, where you're moving your stop over and over and over again, if you can start to identify that it's happening after a certain run of events, you can start avoiding it. You can start doing things slightly differently. And when you start to face your weaknesses, when you start to address them and correct them, that's when you're able to start making proper progress. Not progress that is kind of based around almost luck. So not progress that is, after you've made the mistake, you get that one time where you keep moving your stop and the market does turn around and you do get to avoid the loss. Because eventually, this one's going to catch back up with you. And you're making progress because although you are sometimes still taking those drawdowns, and maybe they're because of mistakes, you are building the discipline to build your account back up once again. You're building the understanding that when you have those drawdowns, you're not going to reward yourself by refunding your account. You're starting to understand that the only way to do this is to maintain your discipline and to follow your trading plan. Now, you can do this over anything that you do as a trader, anywhere where you think you have a weakness. Anywhere where you try to kind of avoid this pain, that is where you need to start addressing the kind of actions that you are taking. And once you do that, once you use your weakness and once you start embracing the pain and learning from it, you will start to improve as a trader. Okay guys, so as always, I hope that was helpful. I hope you're all having a good trading week. You've had a good trading month. I'm James Orr, and thank you.